Welcome to the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. You are going to fall in love with Cameron and Ramiro, the Kepfords on Instagram and social media, parents of 3 children that they've adopted through the foster system. Their story is remarkable and inspiring, and you don't want to miss a minute. Welcome. I'm extremely excited today to be sitting here speaking with the Kepfords. Welcome from cold Canada. Tell us who you are and about the members of your family, please.
I am Cameron Kepford, and yes, we are also in cold Iowa here in the States. And this is my husband,
Ramiro Kepford.
And we have had our family established for 20 months now.
Yeah.
Which feels like yesterday, but also feels like a lifetime.
The longest and shortest time of your life, right?
Yes, 100%. And that consists of obviously the 2 of us, and then our oldest Keegan, who is 7, our middle child Monty, who is 6, and our youngest Nova, who is 4.
That's a nice, big, beautiful family.
Yes, it is.
Keeps it interesting.
0 to 100.
I bet. There are moments when everybody's asleep and it's nice and quiet, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of all of the different ways that members of our community can create their families through parenthood, would you be open to telling us how you chose to create your family?
Yeah. I mean, we've been together for 16 years now, so we kind of always went back and forth. Do we want a family? Do we not? And I think, being 2 gay men, when you're younger, it's hard to bite down and choose that time because you can't do it on a whim. So, you're back and forth about how, and I think at some point we have thought of every different way of doing it. And as we got a little older and we started really thinking about it, foster care came into play because it was something we could go into without a full commitment, even knowing what we wanted. And we also could get an experience. And on the flip side was even if we don't become parents ourselves, if we can help someone in a time of need to get things together for their children, then we'd be doing something great there too.
Yeah, we own a hair salon here in the Midwest, and we empower people and women every single day. And one of the first things that we learned with the foster care is the number one goal is reunification. And that that foster to adopt was a term that we had heard a lot, but that was the very first thing that they told us, that's not the goal. And so it completely changed our mindset and our approach to the foster care system, because we went in to foster to adopt, but then like Ramiro just said, we went in wow, we could really empower, help someone in need and help reunify a family. And then if by chance we get our forever family, that's going to be a blessing, and we'll know when that's right. And I think because we put that out there, we manifested that, and we were very, very fortunate to find our forever family within our first placement, which was beautiful and fate and cosmic and meant to be. So.
And I can only speak for how things are done here, and I haven't fostered to adopt. So it's a learning process for me every day because it's different everywhere. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about more about what that looks like where you're from? Is it that you go for an information night and then you do a series of classes and then home study and all of the things, or what does it look like where you are?
Yeah, so it started with kind of just reaching out for the information, and then was there a meeting before our classes we went to?
There was a meeting, an orientation to see if it was something that we wanted to pursue. And that's when they told us, raise your hand if you're here to foster adopt. And everyone's like, And so they were playful, but then they obviously like delivered the information in a very like serious way to like really weed out individuals who are just wanting that. And then a lot of people in that orientation that wanted to foster a newborn baby and like go into adoption that way, because there's so many different resources out there. And we were lucky enough to have an agency that
they represented us in, going to orientation and then going to the classes. That was for, was it 8 weeks?
12 weeks.
Or 12 weeks of classes. They were eye-opening and so great to anyone who would ever want to be a parent. They start with the realities of, what you might go through just as a foster parent and the heartbreak you'll possibly have. And they start with, the trauma that the children go through with all of it. And it makes you reflect on yourself a lot. I think we came out as different people. We came out as better employers, better friends, just because we got to do a lot of self-exploring. And then I think everyone really should do a lot of that before becoming a parent, because you can be so much more empathetic.
It's funny and maybe a little controversial to say, but I feel like as two gay men or anyone in the LGBTQ like community, that we have to go through all of these different loopholes to become parents. And then because we are not because we are a same-sex couple, we're not able to just, like you said earlier, like just, hi, we're becoming a family. So, I mean, I'm so grateful for all of those classes, and I feel like just more people should take them, even if they're not fostering or adopting, even if they're just having kids like naturally, like within like themselves. Like it completely changed our perspective on so many things, and the parents that we thought that we were going to be, like it transcended into something and evolved to something so much more too.
Yeah.
I've heard that from other people I've spoken to before. And I feel like, and again, not a path I've taken, so I can't speak with absolute clarity because I don't know for sure, but I feel like it is more involved for those who are going through the foster process to adopt than it is even if you're using a private adoption agency. I feel like you are given these opportunities to, as you say, grow and develop yourselves as humans before you become parents. Yes. And those skills roll over because now you can apply them to your roles as parents. But I have heard before other people say that they feel like it should be something that everyone does. And I don't know if you know this, but because if you didn't look at surrogacy, you may not have been told this, but if you are going through a fertility agency to use a surrogate, or if you're two people with uteruses and you need to get sperm, so you're using a donor product of some kind, then you have to go to one appointment here with a social worker to talk about how you may feel about some of that. And there's a lot of people who feel that's very controversial. And then I hear stories about people who choose to go the route of fostering and maybe someday adopting, but primarily fostering, and you do weeks of classes. And I think, wow, is that one class or is that one appointment with a social worker really such a big deal? Because ultimately, I think anytime we do something to improve ourselves, that just ends up benefiting the family that we end up creating.
Yeah, and we both, Ramiro and I, said after the classes that we could have done another 12 weeks. Like there was not a week that went by that we were like that we dreaded the class, or that we didn't come out with we were just mind blown with all the information.
Yeah.
So and let me backtrack a little bit. We had a lot of we were the only same-sex couple in our foster class out of 12 different couples. There were people there for kinship so they could get relatives of theirs. There were couples that struggled with infertility. So we had a very diverse group of people, and like it was so interesting and empowering to hear everyone's stories and why they were there. But we were also very fortunate, like throughout our 16-year relationship, that we've had many people seriously offer surrogacy. And so Ramiro and I have always contemplated which direction to go. And so when it came down to choosing, when we were ready to start our family and ready to take those steps, it was all about like empowering and helping if it was going to be our forever family.
Yeah, I think it gave us another aspect to focus on, because I think no matter what route you go, you're always involving someone else. And
Right.
how do you weigh which one you're going to be the most comfortable with? And that, it took a lot of time to figure out. And I think you still figure it out afterward.
For sure. There are heaps of conversations. It's not a matter of having an extra glass of wine on a Saturday night. Nope, now we're creating a family. It's always intentional. And so there's always lots of conversations that need to take place, as you say, at every step along the way.
Yeah, because I mean, our children will always even have questions. And I think when we really sat down and moved past our original thoughts of, things like surrogacy, we're like, well, no matter what, our children are going to have questions about. And so this will be the route that we choose to explain to them.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
When you started the journey and went to your information class until the first child was placed with you, how long did you have to wait for that journey to start?
So we started on September 25th. I know that because it was my sister's birthday. That was our orientation, and our first our placement, they moved in on May 21st. So how many months is that? Like 9, 10? It was like 10 months, because I was like, oh, it was like we
like a pregnancy,
actual baby. Yeah, because from like the start, like, oh, and then our children moved in on May 21st of 2022.
Yes. So I mean, the classes we started, we finished roughly at like in the next year.
It was like late March, early April.
Yeah. And it wasn't long. We were just kind of waiting for our homesteading and our license to come through. A little bit longer for us for little things like our pool having the right cover and things like that. Just because the state has so many requirements. And then it was not. We had a couple phone calls before our children, but it wasn't too long after we were licensed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did you get all 3 children at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a couple phone calls, and they may really make you sit down and know what you're comfortable with, what you're going to do. And we thought it'd just be one young child, what we were thinking. And, the classes were great, and we were 100%. And afterwards, I think as many people would find, we kind of started having a little bit of reservations and, whoa, it's time now. Are we ready for this? Are we ready to change our lives? Not just be us,
And also the phone calls that we were getting, I mean, everyone has a completely different story, like every human being on this planet. And with our expectation from the very beginning, like when we were in our early 30s, and we started talking about having a family, we only ever talked about one. We never considered having multiple. And so when we received our phone call about these 3 beautiful souls, they're all biological siblings. So they all 3 have the same mother. Our boys have the same biological father, and then our daughter has a different one. And we were their permanency plan. So the bio parents were about to have their rights terminated, and so they needed a plan for them, or they would split them up. And they didn't use that as a tool to like make us feel bad. It was like sometimes when people ask about that scenario, like I don't want them to think that like our agency was like, well, if you don't do this, like they're gonna be split up. It wasn't that way. They were super protective over like our what we are comfortable with.
Yeah, and I think it was transparency, and also for them of a way of knowing like if they do split them up, if they could do a call back around for one, possibly two. Our situation was just so unique because generally, when kids are coming from foster care, they're getting picked up from school or taken from their home that same day. So it's like we'll be there in a couple hours. This was such a different situation to where it was like, oh, we can slowly do this. They've been in a home for 15 months, and now this would be their forever plan. So it was very unique, and we were had a little bit of a, I don't want to say easy because it wasn't an easy path, but our path had a little less struggle than most would.
Yeah, we recognize like our privilege of how our scenario played out, because they, like Ramiro said, like they were in a foster home for 15 months with an amazing foster mom, but she didn't have the intention to adopt, and so she never thought that she would be put in that situation, because she was told that this was going to be a very brief stint before the children were reunified with their biological mother. But then it ended up being 15 months, and then as situations were continuing to happen, that's when they were looking for a permanency plan. So we got to meet them casually, like become friends with them. Then we had a couple overnights with them, and then once I mean, we first met them and we're like, great. We're not supposed to lead with our hearts, and our hearts were just stolen.
Yeah.
So
You just left your heart behind when you went home, right?
yeah. So
Just silence, trying not to say too much to each other because we both knew what we wanted.
yes. And then going from the expectation of one to like meeting three siblings, and at the time they were 3, 4, and 5.
Wow.
Yeah, they're very close in age. Our boys are 364 days apart, so they're the same age for one day. So they're almost identical Irish twins, which is incredible, because our oldest, it just drives him wild. That 24 hours is like the worst. So yeah, I'm like, wow, like our house was equipped for 4 children. I mean, that's when they come into your home study, they're like, oh, you could do 1, 2, or 8, or like whatever it is. And so I'm like, oh, like we no, like it's always just gonna be one. So then when we met them, it was like, oh, our world was turned upside down in the most beautiful way. So
That's amazing. Yeah, fate had a different plan for you that
it
you
did.
hadn't been told yet.
It just felt right, even though it seemed crazy. It just felt right.
Yeah. And that's what you have to do. You have to go with your heart in a situation like that, right? And they don't, you said they didn't make you feel guilty. They weren't trying to make you feel guilty. They were just stating the facts. But I can only imagine that your hearts were going, well, now I have to meet these kids, because there's a chance that we could really give them something that they haven't had, some stability and love that they haven't had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes. Do you still have a connection at all with their foster parent that they were with for 15 months?
So we did in the beginning, and like we absolutely adore her. We just talked about her at breakfast the other day. She's still like a big part um of our mindset, but she, after the kids like moved in with us, she shortly moved out of state for a job. And I can only imagine what she was going through, because she was with them for 15 months and we fell in love with them after 3 minutes. So it was really hard for her. And we really like wanted to be there as much as we could. And we were all very transparent with each other on what was best for the kids. And so, like, especially with our youngest, I mean, obviously, all 3 of them love their biological mother, but our youngest really attached to her foster mom. Those are like the memories of her mom. And trauma was more so removing from the foster mom, not as much the biological mom. And it wasn't even trauma, like, it was like just a lot of communication. And when you're communicating with a 3-year-old, and like I feel that the 3 of us, meaning the foster mom and Ramiro and I, like I don't think it could have went better, because the kids trusted her, they trusted us, and so it's never been like a sadness. It's been more of a celebration. And so they were sad when like we told her that she was moving, and she moved shortly after our daughter's 4th birthday. So she came to her birthday, and it was kind of like their swan song, like together. And so I think that we'll see her again someday, but she had asked us to kind of like not send pictures, and like she's like, I need time to heal, and I want you guys to like become like your family, and I appreciate you involving me so much, but I think it would be better for everyone if we just disconnected and then came back later in life.
Fair enough. And that's it's going to need to take time for her heart to heal, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the kids also, I think, needed to know what their new normal was, because
100%.
it's confusing for them, when things are changing. It went really well because she was transparent with them, and nothing was official until we signed adoption papers a year after they moved in. But even against some of the workers' wishes, she was just honest, like, I can't have them go somewhere else without giving them a reason. So she sat them down and said, Cameron and Ramiro, who you've met a couple times, are friends. They really love you, and they're going to be your forever home. And when they got here, their first day moving in, they were just chanting, "This is our forever family. This is our forever family." And they were so happy. And so the moving in took away all that scariness.
Yeah.
So honesty was so good for them. And
Yeah.
we're really happy it all worked out the way.
It typically is, isn't it? Honesty for kids. You tell them in kid-size fashions, but
Yeah.
you're honest with them that they just get to be loved by that many more people,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back.
My name is Sam, and I'm the face and voice of Baby Ready, as well as the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. Parenting can be the most exhilarating and wonderful experience in the world, as you have been learning through the parents I've been speaking to. It can also provide challenges, whether it's related to infant sleep, infant feeding, toddler years, childhood, and beyond. That's where I come in as a parenting coach for children of all ages, from the very, very young to young adults. I can help you find the answers to the questions you didn't know you had, as well as becoming the parent you've always dreamed of being. For more information, reach out through my website, www.babyready.info. You said you were the only same-sex couple in your orientation and classes. And then you've grown your family seemingly overnight, although it did take 10 months. People just didn't see the behind the scenes work the way you would with a pregnancy. That belly grows, you predict what's coming.
Yeah.
Have there been times throughout your whole journey transitioning from being a couple of two to being a family of five, and then through your parenting, that you've been made to feel ostracized or othered because you're a same-sex couple?
No, we have had the best experience. I mean, we're in middle America. So you that being in Iowa, like there might be some struggles, and we're very fortunate to be in a community that we have not experienced any of that.
No, and the classes were great because they had a really strong focus on gay youth and trans youth and really preparing everyone and trying to really make sure people understand how much of a need there is for it. And so I think that got a lot of comfort for us being in the classes, knowing that that was a focus that they want to take care of that youth. And they're happy to see more gay individuals or couples in those classes because they need someone who understands them. So that made our journey, I feel, really great within the classes because obviously we knew we were accepted. And then afterwards, I mean, you have some people who don't understand, I think, fully. Like one of our workers was like a 70-year-old little woman, and she put a lot of emphasis and focus on things like, well, they're going to have questions. People are going to make fun of them for having two dads. Like, are you okay? Are you prepared for that? And we're like, well, we know what comes with that territory. So, like,
been there, done that.
Yeah. So, but nothing ever, no one ever made us feel less than. No.
And since those classes, Ramiro's joined a diversity board like within like the state, because they really want to be able to reach out with to different ethnicities and different people like in our community, because in our state at least 90% of like foster parents are Caucasian, like straight couples, and the children who are in the system are not. So there's a ton of diversity within race and sexual orientation. So they really want to be able to get to those people to have those conversations, so we can have more diversity in the foster parents as well.
Yeah.
And that's got to be really important, because one of the things that we think about when we're having children, especially if we adopt children whose ethnicity is different than our own, we want to make sure that we can honor some of their cultural history and respect that and teach them that. And if we don't have people within the organization to make sure that foster parents know how to do that, then those children miss out, right?
Definitely.
even like within us owning a hair salon, it opened our eyes. Like, so we like go into schools now and we like will offer complimentary services for like children in need that can't afford to those hygienic services. And it's been like amazing, like learning different cultures and knowing that there's different like religions within hair, like how people can't touch their hair a certain way or show their hair, or there's like sacrifices that are made. And I think it's just incredible that those classes even like exposed us to that and elevated like how we offer our services within our own business.
Yeah. It improves your sensitivity, right? And heightens your sensitivity and your desire to be respectful to everybody.
Everyone.
And to be fair, most of us aren't disrespectful intentionally. There are some trolls on the internet, for one. But generally speaking, people don't set out to be disrespectful. We don't know what we don't know. Mm-hmm. And so this is the opportunity to learn and want to learn, to continue to grow that, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the background of your children?
Both of their sets of parents are Caucasian, and they're just incredible. And we're biased, but they're like the most beautiful human beings that have ever walked this planet. Yeah. Inside and out.
I've seen pictures. Yeah. I think it's true.
It's cosmic how it's happened. I mean, as little as my name is supposed to be Claremont, and they were going to call me Monty. And my mom's like, we're not naming our son Claremont. And so this is a story that Ramiro's known for years. He said, if we ever have a son, like, I want to name him Claremont and call him Monty. And now we have a Monty. His name is Montgomery. Just hearing his name, like, we just turn white. And then there's all these signs where Keegan's middle name is my dad's first name. So it's like we named our firstborn son like after my dad. Like there's all these like synchronicities and these like beautiful things that have happened like throughout like our entire journey. And we have a phenomenal relationship with the kid's birth mother. I feel that she is the most selfless woman, because she could have made it very difficult for us to adopt. And she saw how happy that her children were and are. And she like gave us her blessing. And the kids, I feel like they're very young. So I don't think they're emotionally mature enough to have her in their life right now. But I hope one day that we can. But we talk to her all the time. So like we'll send her pictures and just it's not too detailed, and like we're not co-parenting at all, but we just want her to know that they're safe, that they're loved, and so she can see that, and that just gives her so much.
It gives her, and it gives us for the kids that we at least they know that, oh, we have spoke to your mom, she's safe. And sometimes they need that, you know, like especially our oldest, you know, he will question every once in a while, like, is she okay? Like so it's nice to have that communication, even though it's minimal, like little conversation.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's it. Because children will ask questions. Yeah. So to be able to answer them and answer them honestly and not an I don't know kind of situation is pretty remarkable, especially given the circumstances, because there's always the possibility that she would have said it's too much. I can't have that connection.
Yeah.
So you have this beautiful family, this beautiful big family, and they teach you all kinds of new things every single day, because that's just what parenting is all about. And so tell me, what are your very, very favorite parts of parenting?
I feel we talk about this daily.
Yeah.
So like for us to like be
it's hard to put a favorite part, but I mean, I think it's just getting to watch them grow into their own people every day. I mean, you can see so much personality in even such young children, and it's beautiful to watch, and also to know that you get to help them be comfortable being who they want. Because not every child gets that, so I think that's my favorite, is watching them grow into who they want to be and knowing they have my support, and just constantly trying to make sure that they know they always have me behind them. So
yeah, And the littlest things, like our middle son is in first grade right now, and he's learning to read. And so we're very fortunate that we got to also like experience this with our oldest. And so just like watching it click and the tips and tricks and funny quirks that Ramiro and I will do to help him get there and seeing him apply it to life. It's just like I love like seeing those like little moments of like growth, and it's just so magical. I also don't know what Ramiro and I did before we had children because we thought we were so busy. And like we're very busy people, but now I'm like, what did we do before? Like, and now I feel like we just live in controlled chaos because like we don't know anything different. Like we went from 0 to 3. So when people have like 1 or 2 children, they're like, how are you doing 3? We just don't know any different. And we just applied it to our life. And every day I just am like laughing and smiling because it is genuine controlled chaos. And we have 2 dogs. Like we are like, I just made our Christmas card like before like we got on this call, and I'm like, it's running out of room. But
You have to take the Christmas tree out of the background now. No space.
No, it's yeah, I love every single thing about it. Just and also like getting to like re-experience like our own lives. Like we like come from amazing families and we had such an amazing childhood, and getting to relive that and elevate like what we already had and seeing our families accept them and just watching how much love is surrounded by them, and how like especially in the beginning like seeing them absorb it. Like even their foster mom said this to us. She said watching you guys with the kids is like watching like a cactus get rain in the desert. Like it just is like, and it just is absorbed so quickly. And she's like, it's made such a difference like in their lives. And that's just like one of the best compliments you could ever receive as a parent.
I was going to say, literally, that's like a mic drop moment. Thank you very much. I don't need you to say anything more. I'm good. Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's, with, the situation with our children, we get to give them so many experiences and so much. I mean, they've always had love, but a different kind of emotion and a full-on like love, look full-on love, and seeing them take all that in every moment we have together, seeing the appreciation, and also seeing some of their hurt being healed.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see those moments very often, and it just gives you something inside. I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, and if we're going off on a tangent, you can tell us to stop. But when we were first introduced to our kids, like we were told by so many workers and even like his foster mom that like our middle child was going to have behavior issues, and he was a wild one, and he doesn't focus and he doesn't listen, and he's not mean, but like he's going to give us a lot of trouble. And right away like Ramiro and I were like, no, like he's not an underdog.
We're not
like,
gonna prejudgment.
We're not gonna have a prejudgment, but it also like made us like, okay, look, we're gonna go in and show this little man like all of the love in the world. And he is probably the easiest out of the 3. And he's just made like a complete 180, and he just needed love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like he is just so extraordinary. I mean, they're all extraordinary, but I love that he proved so many people wrong.
He taught us
Yeah.
the biggest lesson in parenting our first weekend just by that. Towards like a lot of time, if there's behaviors coming from children, they're just craving something, craving love and comfort and just feeling like he belonged. And we got that right away at home. He did struggle a bit in school for a while. But what was just so crazy is the minute he was told that we had an adoption date, school issues stopped too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, every monumental moment of just feeling more secure, he's grown so much. And it's
another huge compliment that Ramiro and I received is his kindergarten teacher. I mean, he went from a preschool / childcare into a new school. And that is trauma to him. He's like, oh, great. I'm being removed from adults that I trusted. I'm never going to see this person again. And so even though for us, it's like, buddy, you're going into kindergarten. This is amazing. In his little mind, he's like, you just ripped me away from stability. I've done this so many times. So for the first couple months of school, like by the time we had his first parent teacher conference, his teacher wanted to put him on a medication. And from the therapist that they like had been seeing, like, I'm like, it's not that we don't believe in medication. It's just like we weren't educated enough about it. And B, I don't think he has an attention issue. I think it was a trauma issue. So we talked to the therapist, like, this is what his teacher's saying. We don't think that this is the route that we want to go, but what do you think? And she let us know that trauma shows up a lot like ADD and ADHD. And she gave us all of this paperwork on it, supporting like the studies. So we gave it to his teacher. And she said, I've never heard this before. A teacher has never heard this before. There are thousands of foster children in the school systems. And I think teachers should go through the classes that we went through. So, and this is the conversation that we're having with her. And so she read all of the documents. She did her own research. And at the end of the year, our adoption day was like 3 days before the end of the school year. And so their teachers came to our adoption party, and she let us know that Monty changed her. And she completely changed a lot of her behavior systems in her classroom, because a part of that documentation was like saying like how a color system like could have like a lot of psychological damage on someone dealing with trauma. And she was like, he completely changed me. And she's been teaching for 25 years. And like, that was just like, and I don't take credit for that. I give Monty that credit, that he is the one that her. And he is, I mean, trust me, like, he can still give a teacher a run for their money. But that's just
because all kids can.
Yeah, he's a 6-year-old little boy and very eccentric. So yeah, like, it was beautiful to like watch those belief systems change just from getting documents from their therapist and giving it.
And it makes perfect sense when you stand back and look at the picture from outside looking in. You think, this poor child has lived with how many people, been with how many people who have loved him and cared for him. And so it makes sense that really any transition is going to be difficult to learn to navigate. And so what he needs more than anything is skills to be able to figure out how to navigate transitions and still feel that love and support, right? I mean, it makes sense when you look at it from the outside in. But when you're in it, it's probably hard to see. And probably for a teacher, when you're in it with 30 other kids in the room, it's much harder to see too.
Well, I think parenting in general is trying to step out and look into it that way and see the bigger picture, because it goes boom, boom, boom. And you have to try not to forget that, because it's always a much bigger picture than what's in that moment.
Yeah. And you're so busy in the moment that it's really hard not to stay in that moment and to step back, for sure. I feel like I could talk to the two of you for hours and hours and learn so much from you both. I really want to take a moment and say thank you so much for making time to speak with me today and sharing your story with everyone in the world. Please tell listeners how they can see your family and learn a little bit more about your story.
Well, our Instagram is the Kepfords. We started that with our journey solo up until the kids, and now it's us and the kids. So that's a great place to see everything about us.
And that gives a lot more insight into like what we were talking about today, because it's real life. It's raw and it's transparent. We just did like a vlog style and just talked about like our entire journey of our classes, meeting our kids, going through the system, having a lot of wrenches thrown like in the machine. And it's very, very raw when I say that, like, you just see us having a lot of wine. This is before the kids came, a lot of night
Right.
snacks. And like really it's super raw, it's emotional, it's not curated, and we get stopped daily about people in our community that we don't even know, and they're like, I just love like how much insight you've given me. And so many people have reached out to us that have like joined like our agency, just to become foster parents, not necessarily to foster like having a child move in with them or to adopt them, but they just want to be able to help because in the state of Iowa, you cannot babysit. Like if we had a foster child, we couldn't ask our mom to babysit. Like you can only place a foster child with another licensed foster parent, and so it's called respite. And so like we talk about that in our videos, and so a lot of people are just getting licensed just so they can like provide relief for foster parents, which I think is huge. So
and it's probably fairly universal that sentiment. I would assume that Iowa is not the only place where in order for a foster parent to have a break, those children or that child has to go to another licensed foster home because the state is responsible for the child and they want to make sure that the child is being adequately cared for. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
The
insightful.
videos are fun.
Excellent. Well, I encourage everybody to go and check them out and visit their website. Thank you again for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
It was absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.